Hello, my name's Ben,
And my name's Josh.
and welcome back to FPL Graduates. Welcome back to another video where today we're going to be going through all the goalkeepers on FPL and ranking them by university grade.
Okay, then, so we're going to go straight into the £4.5 million goalkeepers. That's just because there's no keeper at £4 million who's going to get first team minutes. Our advice on that would be just to pick one of the lower owned ones so that they don't drop in price. I think there's a couple of options at the moment, like Matt Turner and Fabianski, 10% respectively. So yeah, I'd avoid those two. I mean, Matt Turner's third choice goalkeeper anyway. So yeah, just avoid those to avoid those price drops that we usually get, a few game weeks into the season when it comes to those early wildcarders. But yeah, into the £4.5 million defenders, as you can see on screen, goalkeepers rather. Robert Sanchez tops the list. A bit of speculation here because obviously Chelsea have just signed a new goalkeeper from Villarreal. At the time of recording, he hasn't had his price released, and if he comes in at 5 million, it just throws a massive spanner in the works. What's your thoughts on Sanchez, Ben? Is he just an avoid for now?
Potentially, yeah, because obviously at 4.5 you can't guarantee the minutes than you would avoid. You're just going to have to see, really. Like, he could very well play the first couple of games, and then this new keeper comes in as he sort of integrates a bit more into the first team. So all of a sudden, I think even without seeing the price, there's a lot of doubt flying around on, what's actually going to sort of happen with Sanchez. So for now, that if he's guaranteed his first choice, he's a 2-1, easy as that. But if he's not, then all of a sudden you're looking towards avoiding him rather than anything else.
Yeah, 100%. Same sort of applies to the Nottingham Forest goalkeeper, whoever that may be. Even Nottingham Forest fans aren't really sure who's going to start between the sticks. So it could be Sells or it could be their new signing, Miguel. I think Miguel is 6'6", if I'm not mistaken. So that's to sort of combat their set piece problems that they had last season. They finished bottom in terms of set piece goals conceded. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. In general, Nottingham Forest last season were one of the best defences in the league, surprisingly, despite where they finished up in the Premier League last year. Their fixtures to start the season as well are really good. They're third in the difficulty ratings. Ben, you've got him down as a 2-2. Is that just because you don't know who's going to start?
Yeah, pretty much. It's just the sort of doubts on starting, and obviously, yeah, Forest have got a good few opening fixtures, and they've made changes in the defence and the keeper. And Forest tend to sign a lot of players as well, so we'll have to see how they set up at the start of the season. They, the back end of last season, they looked a lot better, and that's where the good stats come from. So yeah, I'm sort of waiting and seeing, and not really willing to take the risk on the goalkeeper situation there.
Yeah, the person that you've ranked the highest with a first grade is Mark Flecken. Obviously, he is reliable in terms of minutes last season, nearly 3,300 for him. Some of the worst fixtures, though, in terms of defensively, for Brentford to start the season. Why have you ranked him so highly?
I've ranked him so highly because despite them having sort of one of the worst expected goals conceded last year, he came out with as many clean sheets as any of the other 4.5 million keepers, which suggests to me, obviously, he's making saves, and Forest are conceding a lot of low XG shots, which should propel him further up into the bonus point rankings. The difficult fixtures as well will sort of highlight this even further. We saw last season at points Brentford were a difficult team to break down for those big teams. No one likes really going to the G-Tech to play them. So I do think for some keepers, the fixture difficulty almost goes out the window.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Dean Henderson falls into that same category as Sells and Sanchez, where we're not sure if it's Johnston or him who's going to be the number one. So for me, I'd avoid, because you've got the £4.5 million defenders anyway, like Anderson, that you can jump on anyway. Areola, I'd avoid personally at the minute. That's just because West Ham defensively last season were so bad, and they also have really, really bad fixtures as well. Obviously, they have recruited really, really nicely this summer, West Ham, so there could be an improvement to that. Lopetegui as well is a possession-based manager, so that will mean that they concede a lot less chances because obviously they've got the ball more. Would you consider Areola, Ben? Obviously, it allows you to have that 4.54 million backup, so say if Areola was to get injured, Fabianski can come straight in, or are you just sort of avoiding because they're defence?
Yeah, avoiding for the defense and the fact that there's so many sort of potential better options. Like there's at least sort of two or three better options, depending on who starts for each team in goal, and that just makes it a relatively easy decision to not go with Areola.
Yeah, someone who's been actually mentioned quite a lot in the FPL community is Muric. Obviously, he was at Burnley last season and got displaced for Trafford, and then obviously Trafford didn't really play too well and came back in towards the back end of the season and was one of the highest scoring goalkeepers during that period with loads of saves, loads of bonus points. The only problem here is that he would have actually had 0 bonus points in this year's bonus point system if it had been the same way around. Obviously, they've changed the way the bonus point system works this year in terms of if you do concede goals, you're losing bonus points, which is obviously a negative for these sort of keepers that make a lot of saves but concede a lot of goals, and then also those defenders who maybe get high attacking returns but also concede a lot of goals as well. So yeah, it's an interesting one to see. Obviously, we don't know how it will pan out yet because we haven't actually had a season with this bonus point system. So that's just something to make a note of, though, if you are looking at maybe going for like a relegation team goalkeeper who might concede a few goals. Neto as well. We've got him ranked 2-1, both of us. What's your thoughts on him, Ben? I feel like Bournemouth assets in general just going a bit under the radar to start this season.
Yeah, they've been a little bit overlooked, and I think probably unfairly. Like I don't think Neto is really a bad option at all. It's just obviously there's a lot more popular options because of sort of the factors that we've spoke about on the other keepers. Like Neto is sort of like the middle of the road pick, if you were. You're not going too risky. You're not chasing too many points there. Sort of a safe pick that you can go for, and the fixtures are not the best in terms of sort of the defense, but you're sort of hoping that they can keep a couple of clean sheets in those opening six. Okay, so moving on into the £5 million keepers, and there's a couple of interesting options in here. One that me and Josh are not keen on, however, is Leno. Even though the fixtures are decent, the expected goals conceded was really, really poor from Fulham last year. 64 XG conceded. Yes, he did keep 10 clean sheets, but for the amount of XG conceded, you're sort of playing maybe a little bit with fire there. Josh, what are your thoughts on him?
Like you mentioned, so the expected goals conceded last season wasn't great. You can also get into their defence for a decent attacking option like Anthony Robertson as well for 4.5 million. So you can save that 0.5 if you really wanted to go there. Fixtures are a good start the season. So yeah, it's an interesting team to target, but for me, I'd probably steer clear of Leno right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, we've got Emi Martinez in there as well. Maybe even a similar situation with him. You can go Ezri Konsa for 0.5 less. You can go for potentially Matson at the same price point. If we can guarantee that both of those guys are starting, he almost becomes a non-option to start with. And potentially the same could be said for Onana if we sort of get Luke Shaw and sort of like Martinez, etc. starting, then, we obviously sort of you got a pick on your hands. Like Luke Shaw, so much more attacking, Matson, so much more attacking. So you can almost put those guys under the same umbrella. They're not bad options, don't get me wrong, but if those players are fit, then all of a sudden you've got a little bit of a more difficult decision on your hands. So to round off the £5 million keepers, Jordan Pickford is one that I've put as a 2-1. Josh has put as a first. The reason I'm potentially not so keen on them is for whatever reason, I've just mentally, I don't know whether I trust them still to keep those clean sheets. Yes, he's been so good in the past. He picks up sort of 2, 3, 4 saves and gets bonus points. And like Josh alluded to, maybe that's not going to be enough now to get the bonus points for these goalkeepers. Josh, what are your thoughts on Pickford? You've obviously put him as a first.
Yeah, and it's just because of how good Everton defensively was last season. Obviously, 13 clean sheets. That is the highest that we've seen by quite a margin, really, on the list. Obviously, Leno's next with 10. So, yeah, I think a really decent defence under Dyche. I don't see that changing too much. Obviously, they've not made too many signings so far in the window. The one thing that sort of worries me a little bit is that Brampwaite and Tarkowski and pretty much their whole defence hasn't played together. Just due to like injuries, people coming back from Euros and things like that. So something to bear in mind a little bit. Brampwaite himself is coming back from surgery, so whether they have him for the start of the season, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think Pickford, like you mentioned, he does get saves, and they do have a good defensive record last season. So if they can sort of keep that, I think he will still get those bonus points, because they aren't a team that tend to get beat by 3-4 goals. They tend to keep it quite close. So yeah, for me, he's a good option. And also with Mikolenko potentially rumoured to be moving away, not 100% certain on his sort of minutes, 5 million is potentially the cheapest that we're going to be able to get someone in this Everton defence.
Yeah, and the biggest disparity almost between the two of us is Nick Pope. I've put him as a 2-2. You've put him as a first-class option. The reason I've gone for a 2-2, obviously, it's not really anything to do with the Newcastle defence, because statistically speaking, not bad. And I think a lot of managers are going to have a Newcastle sort of defender / keeper. I just think at 0.5 million less, Livramento, Hall, Burn are going to provide much more value for them in terms of the attacking threat, the assist potential, the potential goals from Dan Burn from set piece if he's playing at centre back. That is, Josh, you've got him as a first. Tell me your case for having him as a sort of first class keeper there.
Yeah, I think the thing that you obviously mentioned with those assets is that other than Dan Burn, I don't think you can necessarily guarantee that they're going to start at the moment. Obviously, if we get any confirmation that Trippier is off, obviously it makes them a lot better options. But at this present time recording, we don't really know that right now. Nick Pope, obviously, is their first choice goalkeeper, and I don't expect that to change come game week 1. Obviously, and as you can see in the stats there, he only played 1,300 minutes last season and got 6 clean sheets. So I think he's quite an important part of that Newcastle defence, and when he is missing, like we saw last season, their defence really dropped off. I think the same could be said to Botman as well, who obviously is missing the start of this season. So it'll be interesting to see, because I think they are trying to recruit in defence as well in terms of a centre-backs. They are quite light there. So yeah, for me, I think he's a good option, and obviously gives you that safety in terms of minutes. But like you mentioned, if there is one of those 4.5 defenders that become a real standout, then obviously, yeah, it makes him a no-go. Okay, then, so moving on to the 3 premium goalkeepers, obviously from the 3 best defences in the league last year. David Raya, for the best defence in the league, comes in at the cheapest at 5.5 million. I mentioned it in the defenders video that he is in my draft at the moment and will probably stay there, to be honest, because he is the cheapest route into that Arsenal defence. 5.5 million, saving that 0.5 is quite important. And obviously, as we've shown in the list gone by, there's not really that many great options that we know of at 4.5 or at 5, really. So I'm not too fussed about spending that extra million on a keeper when I'm getting into that Arsenal defence as well, which would cost me £6 million if I tried to get into it in my defence usually. So yeah, for me, I'm happy to have him. Ben, you're not so keen. Obviously, I've got him at Masters. You got him at 2-1. Why are you not so keen on Raya?
Again, it's nothing to do with the defence. I think the ceiling really for Raya is 6 points, potentially, maybe 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're looking at Gabriel or Saliba or Ben White at that little bit more price, you've got almost sort of a ceiling that, is sky high, really, in terms of the points potential. We've seen it last season. Ben White came in with a mega haul in a double game week. Gabriel has done the same with goals coming sort of left, right and centre for him. So there's always that potential there that if you go into the Arsenal defence and just go with David Raya, you're potentially losing out on attacking returns. We've seen Arsenal absolutely demolish teams, and they really do share the goals around. So you've really got to bear that in mind. If you're going to go for David Raya, you've got to be sort of almost accept that you're going to lose out on moments when there's sort of big attacking returns from the likes of Gabriel, Saliba even, and as well as Ben White.
Yeah, and then moving on to the 2 £6 million ones, for me and you, not really too highly rated. Obviously, Edison there, 6 million. I feel like he's been a troll for a lot of FPL managers over the years. I've rated him slightly higher just because, again, it's one of the better defences in the league. But for $1 million cheaper, you can get Jordan Pickford, who Everton kept more clean sheets than Manchester City last season, which is quite impressive. Is your thoughts the same on that? You'd rather sort of save the money and, well, for the same price, you can get Gvardiol, right?
Yeah, for the same price, getting Gvardiol, it makes it a no-brainer. And your ceiling's pretty low in terms of what they could get. It may be a consistent basis that they hit that ceiling, but you'd much rather go even 0.5 cheaper, knowing that you've got a defence that's been statistically much, much better.
Yeah, definitely agree on that. And as Ben mentions, when he's talking about the ceiling, you can see it there. You can't see the top of it, but the 1.43 and the 1.72 is the saves per game. So yeah, that's really, really low, as you can see with David Ryan, for example. But that is why they do keep so many clean sheets, because they don't concede a lot of shots. So yeah, pros and cons for those two. Alisson's our last keeper. Not really going to touch on him too much. I'd much prefer to get Trent. And yeah, there's just not that much upside to him, in my opinion. Are you thinking the same, Ben?
Yeah, not too much upside at all. I'm completely the same sort of opinion as I had for Ederson, really. So not too much more to add on that.
Okay, then, so that wraps up our best goalkeepers video. Let us know what you think of the goalkeepers in the comments. I think this one has been a little bit more opinion based. We haven't really picked out a real good asset, I don't think, out of all of those lot. What's your thoughts, Ben? Is there anyone that sort of stuck out in your mind at the moment?
Yeah, at the moment I've got Raya. Yeah, if I want to go cheaper, then I'd probably go for Flecken.
Nice. So yeah, if you did enjoy the video, make sure you do hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you also check out the Patreon in the description. We review teams over there as Manager of the Month prizes. It's all popping off. It's a great little community, so make sure you go and join it.
Absolutely. As Josh said, please remember to like, comment and subscribe. I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys
later. Have a good pre-season, everyone.
So you